Awesome. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining another webinar with Gable. Today, we're going to talk about how to navigate space needs, measure what matters, and really how to get teams together. Let's start, as always, by getting to know each other. If you're just joining, if it's your first time, or you are, a returning listener, please drop your name, your role, your company, and where you're dialing in from. And for those of you who don't know about Gable, we are the workplace operating system. We are a fully integrated solution for seamless hybrid, remote, and in-office management. We have four key pillars of our platform to really help companies manage remote, hybrid, and in-office work. We help companies with access to thousands, actually over 20,000 working spaces globally on demand for their remote employees. We help companies organize events, whether those are on-sites or off-sites. Everything related to the in-office management, whether this is desk reservation, meeting room booking, and of course, all the data that comes with it. And finally, visitor management and package delivery, all in one system. With that, I would love to introduce our speakers. I'll let them introduce themselves. Michelle, let's start with you, and then Shaq, you're next.
I was just going to drop it into chat, but I have the mic, so I'll just say it. My name is Michelle. I'm the Senior Director of Experience at Reddit. I've been at Reddit for almost a decade, and I'm coming to you from San Francisco, California.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Shaq.
Hey, I'm Shaq Lawson. I'm the Senior Director of Operations over at Business Insider. I've been with the company for about 6.5 years now. Even saying that sounds like a long time, but yeah, been there for a while. So I handle anything dealing with our office upkeep, negotiations, real estate, all that good jazz.
Awesome, thank you. Also, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. There are already a bunch of questions, so please, you can upvote as well some really interesting questions that we have there, or drop some new questions that you would like to have. And before we dive in, if anyone interested in learning more about Gable, you can easily book a demo, and we're going to drop a link in the chat for you to book it, and we'll dive right into our amazing speakers and topics here. Okay, so Shaq, let me actually start with you. First of all, can you share a little bit about your workplace strategy today?
Yeah, so we're hybrid. We don't have like a mandated RTO policy and or anything like that. We do have offices all over the globe, from London to Singapore to San Francisco to the New York area. Ideally, right now, we're not like forcing folks to come in, but what we have been encouraging our managers to do is, throw more team meetings and more collaborative situations, what would drive folks to come into the space. We found that to be very like helpful, honestly, in our attendance.
Amazing. And, when we talked, you mentioned that, Business Insiders offices, you did go through multiple rebrandings throughout the years. You've been with the company for 6.5 years, and you experienced all this transformation, whether this is like the office rebranding, leadership changes, and obviously the pandemic pivot. I'm curious from your perspective, are there different RTO policies, or how did you land to your current policy today?
Yeah, I think like everyone in the world, we were trying to figure out what's this new COVID or post-COVID lifestyle, what's it going to be for us? For me specifically, I was reporting to the CFO, so the biggest things I had to look at was, are we overbought on space? What's our lease situation? How can we get out early? What will it cost? Subletting. So multiple different situations that we've seen in many different regards in different parts of the world. So for like London, there was a point where we didn't have an office at all. So we were fully remote, trying to figure things out. I was with TechSpace, and then it got to a point where we're like, okay, the world's opening back up slowly, policies are changing. Let's grab a space, because at the same time, we wanted to keep morale going. We wanted to make sure people knew, like, hey, although things are remote and folks are afraid of losing their job, like we're still trying. We're gonna let you know that we support you and we have something in place. So it's definitely been a few shots in the dark, just trying to figure out, like, okay, maybe we get this space and it works. So it was unlearning a lot of habits, but also as you go through rebranding and then you're learning the new direction of the company, leadership, etc., you want to make sure that the space is supporting that. So the spaces that we had at one point were built for pre-COVID. And as the industry changed for us, we realized like, hey, we need a space that's a bit more sustainable for what we're doing and where we're trying to go. So
Awesome, thank you. And Michelle, I wanted to ask a bit of a similar question, I would say, in terms of the policies, and obviously Reddit is fully distributed. You have 10 global offices. I'm sure you're going to talk a little bit about the mandates or no mandates, I would say. But how do you even justify keeping offices open when you are not enforcing a mandate? And also, again, the tug of war of like, can we justify it? Do we have enough metrics of utilization, or what are we driving towards, I would say?
Mhm. I've been really grateful to work at Reddit with the leadership team that really understands the impact of gathering in person. And so the requirement wasn't day over day in office use, but the requirement was, how do you create those really meaningful moments of connection IRL that will sustain and give you the trust and respect you need to do the hard work back at your homes in between those on sites? So be it in your local office, or if you're traveling to another office to meet with your entire team or your entire department. So over the last 3 years, Reddit has really given us the bandwidth to build that muscle for our culture. So we've really had to build how our employees operate and navigate together IRL, because we were just all home, right, for almost a solid 2 years. And it just creatively unlocked how we continue to build culture and gather in a way that suited everybody's lifestyle so much more. And so when I said I'm very grateful to have this leadership team that allows for this, I'm very grateful that our leadership team allowed for us to index on humanity and how we gather with the most impact. And so across our offices and our real estate, we've always remained incredibly lean. We've always had a really strong guide that we would only commit to a 3 to 5 year lease, even internationally, when that's not the norm. So really making sure we have this nimble real estate portfolio, but then using the space that we do have to build out incredible spaces for our teams to come together to meet. So no longer are the days of a ton of 4-person meeting rooms where everybody has to meet together and talk about things. Instead, now we get to build beautiful event spaces where people gather once a quarter or twice a year and really make an impactful time to be together on site. So we've created a program that everybody supports and leans into, where they let my team know when they'll be gathering and doing an onsite, and we'll help bring it to life and make sure they have everything they need, really creating this concierge approach to how to gather.
It's amazing. We see a lot of the movement towards hospitality, right? And a lot of it is focused on that, I would say, right? That's the curation of the experience, and making every on-site visit meaningful, right? And Michelle, you mentioned something that Shaq, I wanted you to maybe comment on, but there is a lot of the focus of, okay, keeping morale. You mentioned this as well, keeping employees happy. There are a lot of employees that are requesting those, like, oh, I need a 4-person meeting room. I need a 6-person, like, there is always the challenge of meeting rooms and people wanting to meet. And obviously it's hard to build those spaces, right? How do you, one, push back a little bit on those requests for employees? Because at the end of the day, you need to make a conscious decision on how you rebuild your offices, right? So can you walk us through like the decision-making process there, I would say?
yeah, for me, it's always how much do we need this and how much do we think we need this? I think often we all can agree as workplace leaders, you'll never have enough conference rooms. It's just a figment of our imagination. It's not a real thing. You can have 40 people as a head count and 60 conference rooms, and someone's still going to find something wrong and say, hey, I don't have the right space. So what I normally do is I'm always an advocate for hearing what the employee asks for. I'm very inclusive on everything and I'm very transparent. Where some folks are like, yeah, we should build some more rooms. And I'm like, it sounds easy until you attach the dollar figure to it. Then I got to attach timeline. Then I got to soundproof. I got to get AV. So there's a lot of budget behind a lot of these requests. And I don't always try to make it a money thing, but really just, hey, have you ever tried doing this? Or, hey, I know someone's having a similar meeting and they've been doing this. Have you tried that? Because often it's one-on-one meetings and people are booking like 10-person rooms. And it's like this is a bit obnoxious. Like I don't think we need this. I've seen one-on-ones happen in our kitchen. I've seen one-on-ones happen outside on a walk when it's good weather outside. So what I really try to do is sit down and I take all this information and everyone knows me in the company. So at some point I will cross paths with them and then they'll bring the idea to me of this like, hey, I'm having trouble booking a room. What I've seen happen is a lot of employees who aren't based in a certain office have the ability to book in that office. So someone who's like in the UK, but the direct report is in the US, they're booking on their behalf. And what happens is that person may not know the landscape of our office and they don't know what they're booking. They just see a free room and they grab it. This now causes conflict because now we're playing Tetris with the calendar, trying to find what room works for who. So what I've honestly done is I take in all requests, I hear things, but I do have like that moment with folks where I'm like, hey, this is not going to happen. But here's what I would suggest, and just give it a try and tell me if it works. And more often than not, it does work, or the priority of the meeting now changes where they're like, oh, I could just do it this way. So it's like, why didn't you just do it that way? So, but honestly, I'm always listening to folks, and that's just my theory. I look at the financial piece, I look at the feasibility on how long this will take, I look at the time of the year that we're in, and then how frequent am I hearing this request? So that's usually what I do.
And also it's part of prioritization, right? At the end of the day, if you feel
Yeah.
like this is, this I hear this often, I can give a temporary solution. We see that still
Hmm.
it's credible, then there is a, larger business case in place. I would say that I think it's a very natural progression of like a bit of a push-pull in terms of not every request will be immediately fulfilled, nor also the requester might understand, like to your point, oh, you want more meeting rooms, but we need to build them, we need to soundproof them. Like there is a lot of things that come into play that is a bit behind the scenes around these requests. So I really like that approach.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing to know with that too is like, especially when you don't have like a concrete RTO in place, this can be someone who's just visiting for like 2 weeks who makes this
Mhm.
request and then they're not coming back to the office for another year. So imagine me doing this permanent change and now it causes
Yeah.
a conflict for someone else. So yeah, I'm always very conscious of what I'm hearing. Like again, listen to everyone, focus on some. That's
And Michelle, I think it's a very, very relevant follow-up to you is that I'm sure you get tons of requests, probably a lot of wild requests. Some are small, some are bigger. Talked about, yogurt in the kitchen and needing more phone booths. How do you handle these conversations as well? You know, one of the things that we've heard from Shaq, I think it's a lot of the focus on trust building versus the frustrations of employees. So curious to get your perspective on how you manage that at a large scale.
I think it's incredibly similar, Shaq. I think one of the things that you're really driving at is influencing behavior in a way that's still beneficial to being productive. So
correct.
at the end of the day, all our job is sometimes is like being the bartender. You have to listen to the problem. You offer a little bit of life advice on how to get around it. Like I know it feels like a problem right now, and I'm not devaluing, your ability to accomplish your work, but next time maybe take this approach with how to make sure you have the resources you need to get your work done. It really is that listening and offering an alternative and just hoping to help continue to evolve behaviors to be supportive of limited resources. Sometimes our hands are completely tied, and it's not fun to pass the buck and just say, well, we can't get budget approval. We're not going to be able to make it happen. It's just like, well, these are the resources we have right now. How can we best utilize them to make sure everybody's productive? So just being honest and open and listening and offering solutions is really valuable.
Yeah, in general, the solution oriented approach is always
Sure.
uh, a good one to maintain. And always there is, I like the bartender analogy. It's probably very, very true. No matter what size you are probably, yeah, dealing with the same situation.
Yeah, you just have to listen truly. I think that's such a big part of our job is listening and building trust. Narmi is on the call and she used to work at Reddit and I loved having her on our team. And she was so wonderful at hearing people and listening to them and understanding how to support them. And that's truly what this job is. Our CEO said the other day in a company-wide meeting, I don't want us to talk about debating problems any longer. I just want us to talk about debating solutions. And I think sometimes we get stuck in the problems because it's relatable. It's like, oh, isn't that so annoying? And it's like, yeah, it's a nice way to relate to people and create connection, but that's not the value or the reason we're all here.
That's a very good point. I love it. Thank you. I wanted to go to something that, we talked a bit on the people side, but there's always the talk about the data and the metrics that we all upheld, right? And Shaq, we'll start with you. What do you track? Everything that's related to utilization, to adoption, to the, different types of adoption between different teams. And maybe if you can share some insights that you've seen that change your approach to space planning because you've done a lot of rebranding and rebuilding, right?
Yeah, I think for us, it's big on culture. So when I joined the organization initially, my only focus was just a New York location. And like within a quarter, it evolved into all of the US. And then within a year, it evolved into globally. So when I founded our Singapore office, I had to learn the culture out there. Like what were the things that they were actually into? What did they find comfortable for an office setting? Same thing I had to do with London, where in some ways it contrasted from a lot of the setup that we did in the New York space. So I was like, okay, if everything here is based on like a culture or a practice or different feel when they're in the space or just different hours of operation that they're in the space, how am I going to actually study the proper utilization? So the benefit that we had is we've used a lot of co-working spaces like WeWork. So I can just go to them and say like, hey, can you give me like the card swipes for the last quarter? And then we, do like some super Microsoft Excel work. And then we'll like create charts and bars and see like, okay, here's where we're seeing the most attendance and all that good stuff. But my current building here in New York City, One Liberty Plaza, it has like more of a nostalgic approach when it comes to getting the card swipes. So again, we had to get the raw manifest from them, put it into an Excel sheet, track it out, see how many swipes we were getting per day. So kind of the same thing. It's all going to be swipe based, but taking it a step further on the IT side that I deal with, we can use Google and in the Meet hardware that we have, we're able to study the booking metrics to
Yeah.
see how many times certain rooms are getting booked, what size room is getting the most bookings, which ones aren't. And then it helps me for like space planning in the future, where I'm saying, okay, I'm seeing a lot more utilization in 4 to 6 person spaces. Do I have any footprint here where I can create some more of that? Maybe I get rid of 2 rows of desk and then take a small budget, create a meeting space here. Or do I repurpose a part of the office and say, hey, this is the meeting zone. So if you're over here and you're sitting, you can have phone calls over here. You can have the phone booth to use. You can have our little huddle area to use. Like, so if you're over here, understand that you may hear noise, but it's because everyone's doing the same thing you're doing. So we're in a meeting space there. So the good thing with that is everyone still gets to have their meeting. CFO doesn't have to spend too much. CEO
Yes.
doesn't hear too many complaints. And no one is asking me, like, can I build more rooms? So you honestly have to look at everything that you have and say, okay, is this the solution? Because now you can create this meeting zone and then you see no one's actually going there. So it's just like, oh, maybe there's not really a need for meeting space. Maybe people just don't know how to use a calendar properly, or maybe they're just in a situation where they've been adopted into a culture where it's like, if you have a meeting, get a room. And you may not honestly need one. So it's back to like what we said earlier, where you're influencing a lot of the decisions, a lot of the choices in the space. And honestly, you just want to make sure that you're sustaining anything that you put out. And we're also supporting these individuals in their career properly. Because I know my salespeople will need a room more often than not over my reporters. My reporters, I've seen them in the hallway on the phone talking to a source. I'm seeing salespeople talking to Chase, talking to Visa. I was like, no, they need a room. They need AV. We need to make sure this is good. Like this is bringing in dollars. This is important. So I really just take a study on all of our teams and say like, okay, when it comes to this department, I know what they're looking for. And this one, I can probably flex with them a little bit. So yeah, it's really just studying our employees and seeing how I can best support.
That's amazing. And I would say what I really like about your answer, it's there is obviously the numbers, but there is also the attribution to the behavior aspect and the departmental aspect. It's so like to your point, is it someone that is, is it an onboarding issue, right? Or like fit
Mhm.
into how we do things, right? Or is it a departmental need? So all of these are, basically layers to the fundamental data. And I think that's part of the key, aspect of, just tracking utilization is almost not enough without this context, I would say, which you have to have. Yeah. And I think, Michelle, maybe I'll follow up with you. I see you also went off mute. It's like such a big, I think to me, we hear this all the time. Like we talk with workplace leaders all the time. And obviously it's always like, okay, what's the utilization? What's the utilization? It's fundamental to track it, but there is so much more behind it.
Hmm.
Also, again, it needs to align to what's your policy, right? Like, do you track it monthly? Do you, like, for example, Michelle, you track it quarterly? Right? There is a reason for all of these things. And when does the data from your perspective really become actionable? And how do you track it? How do you scorecard it? And what are the things that you think worth paying attention to?
Yeah, I think for us, we track it weekly. Like we look at utilization at every office. We work with WeWork or our badging system, and we have these reports we understand. And then we also have all of the on-site data, so we know when people are coming into our office for an on-site versus just day over day use. And understanding those two narratives is incredibly important. But I think there's something so much bigger here. It's not just about tracking it, it's how do you quantify and share that? Because data is data is data. Like you could just look at numbers all day and it might not be helpful. But Chuck, something you touched on that I think is so valuable and exciting and fun in how our industries are continuing to evolve post-COVID is no longer is everybody just asked to come into an office to work. There's no like carte blanche, like work from an office. Like we all work in this house together. It's how do you work? What matters? What needs walls? What needs soundproofing? What can happen in a hallway? What can happen out in the open? And how do we reimagine how we use space to do our best work? And sales is certainly emerging as the team that needs walls because they're loud and they meet with clients and they make sure we make money. Like that is a priority and that should be a priority. We're a business. How do we help secure and create a safe space for them to continue to do their best work? And then alternatively, how do we continue to offer opportunities for people to work in the ways that works best for them? Is it a phone call in a hallway? Is it a phone booth? Is it from home? So how do we make sure we're supporting all of those things? And it's really fun to quantify, but sales and their driving of utilization is becoming the biggest talking point for when and where and how we have offices, with a close second for on-sites. And those being the ways that we need physical space.
Um, it's first of all, I think it's the way to look at, again, it's not every feedback is the same. Not every business function is the same. Like for example, maybe the engineers that don't want to come every day because they have an amazing setup at home. And like we don't need it, right? It's also what I really like about I would say the challenge and the opportunities of not having a very clear-cut RTO policy is the fact that you really fit, what every team needs where, and you meet people where they are. And I think it's amazing, but also very hard in that sense. And you need to build a lot of programs around it, right?
Yeah, I'll say as the last note, sorry to keep jumping in, but
Oh, all good.
I make sure to talk to all of our new hires and I love talking to our new hires. And when I introduce myself and I acknowledge the work that my team does here at Reddit and why we're here, I acknowledge that I'm the one who wants to protect their freedom to work from home or to work wherever they're happiest. Like I understand that fundamentally right now it's my job to make sure as a business we can articulate why we have this distributed policy, how we meet in meaningful ways that still move the needle for the work that we all accomplish as a larger group, and really helping storytell and make sure that that narrative goes all the way to the top so that they feel good about where our leases are and why they're there.
Amazing.
I
And
definitely I relate to that as well too, because even since like I've been in the organization, I've seen different generations from each team transition from the leadership all the way down to like the intern. Like, and then it's so interesting because what may have worked for one leader is the complete opposite from another. So you may
yes,
have someone where they're like, I need everyone in office. If I don't see you working, you're not working, versus another one where they're like, hey, you're a high performer. Whatever you're doing to continue performing that way and better, please let us know how we can continue supporting you that way. And then it's just for me, I'm always making sure that everyone is still heard because your salespeople may not understand the lifestyle of your reporters. Your reporters may not understand the lifestyle of your advertising folks and what they need to function in a space. Silence may drive the salespeople crazy. So it's like, no, we can't do this. I need it this way. I need this. I have this person coming in. Like for them, they're making like a serious pitch in that situation. So everything counts. All those optics count for them. So it's just about making sure that like hey, we're gonna have some things we agree on, we're gonna have some things that are individualized, and then we're gonna have some things we got to get creative to like what Michelle said.
Thank you both. It's actually a natural progression. I want to talk about the topic that, everyone's thinking is, how do you build a culture in an environment that is distributed, right? Even if you have a mandate, you're still distributed. And Michelle, I'll start with you. You run a travel and event program that has shown measurable impact on engagement scores, and offsite is the new on-site is the new offsite, as they say, right? What makes those events work, and what's the reason that employees love them so much?
You know, this is kind of the same conversation around culture. I would love to say that my team helps build and create culture at Reddit. We just help facilitate what already exists among the people that work at Reddit, right? We just try to pull out the things that are magical and special about them and broadcast and share them with each other so you feel invested. You know, you work among smart, bright people that you want to participate with and around. But as far as the programming, that is the key. The key is giving a marketing campaign to the things that you create. The key is creating FOMO across the people who aren't participating, so they're moved to participate. It has to be a self like choice. You have to choose to participate in these on-sites or in these events. And the more people want to participate, the more successful the company will be in totality because you build that trust, because you build those opportunities for connection. And so my team is a brilliant team of mini marketers and trend forecasters. And what would we expect you want when you walk into an office, or what would you expect to have at an event that makes you want to stay, that makes you want to talk to a stranger? How do we get people to do that? And so really trying to leverage every trick in our cauldron, our toolkit, whatever it is, our Mary Poppins bag. So for our on-sites, we created a program called Project Atelier, and it's a catchy word, but the meaning of atelier is a space that's used for masters to teach apprentices and for creative exchanges to happen. So great, we can turn our offices into atelier spaces where you can come and learn from each other. And then we can create that gorgeous concierge aspect where when you come into the SF office, we have fresh baked goods from Tartine, which is a local bakery that you would normally have to wait in line to get a Tartine croissant. But if they're in the office when you go there for your on-site, boom, there's a smell, there's a taste, there's a memory created with coming in and participating. So it's just those smaller things where people choose to participate instead of us telling them to participate that just make things feel special and like it's their choice. And this makes them happy and they want to do these things.
I am obsessed. It's amazing. I think it's just, even to your point, is like looking at this from an internal marketing standpoint. It's so smart, right? Because that's almost like a cycle, right? You like you're creating these programs. If they don't succeed, so what does it mean? Like, is it what's broken? And part of it is like you need people to want to come to these events. So just the positioning, or the surprise and delight type of aspect is so smart, in my opinion. And I think part of it is, again, because you're focusing on the experience and what people take from it, you don't have to have this RTO policy in place in order to get the presence of people. And I think it's very similar, also to Shaq, to what you're doing, in the sense of, and maybe that's a follow-up question to you, is you mentioned that you're very present, right? You don't hide behind your desk, that everyone comes, approaches you. It's a very much of an open door policy, I would say, right? So curious, from your perspective, why does it matter? And what does it look like in practice, and how do you, and even more, because you have also multiple global offices, how do you replicate this, right?
Yeah, honestly, first and foremost, I don't sleep. I work around the clock because I have office in Singapore that's like 12 hours ahead of me. So when I'm laying down, they're like, "Oh yeah, something's broke. What's going on?" So it's really just learning how to automate certain things and knowing the resources that you have in these certain spaces. But to your initial question, I value being visible in this space because when it was my first day in the office, my biggest thing was just, okay, this is a lot of people. It's like 600 folks were in the office at the time. I'm one of the 600, but I'm also responsible for something that impacts everybody in here. I don't want to be someone that if someone asks a question on Slack, I'm hiding behind a link where I'm just like, oh, read this article. Oh, read this. I want to get into the space. I want to put a face to a name. I want people to know who I am. I want them to know my presence. I want them to know, like, oh, we see this guy, we can stop him really quick and ask him. Even if he's busy, he's always made time, which anyone who's met me, anyone who's worked with me in the last 6.5 years can tell you that. Even the folks that we have in London, there's been times I'm in meetings and I'm still talking to them. I'm just like, hey, check this out. Give me 1 hour on this. Hey, this will help you out here. Oh, I saw your problem earlier, working on it right now. I like to get ahead on a lot of things. I won't catch everything, but if I can at least show that effort, show that engagement, show that care, that credibility is very important for a role like mine because a lot of what I do takes time to complete. If I'm building up a conference room, if I'm vetting a new office, if I'm going on tours, it doesn't mean that my response time stops. I still have to respond to folks. So the way I see it is, although we're in a media organization, I'm in a corporate space, I kind of treat it like a retail environment. Like anytime someone comes up to me, I'm thinking like I'm at a cash register and they're coming to me to check out with something. So I need to make sure at that checkout, I got receipt paper, my scanner is working, the internet is on, everything is running good. I treat every single employee like my customer, and my goal is to make sure like it's a hey, thank you for shopping with us. And translation, hey, thank you for trusting me with your problem, and here's what I can do to solve it for you. So for me, you always want to make sure that in real time you're available. And some people are fully cognizant of the fact of like, hey, he's in New York time zone. I'm 6 hours ahead of him. I'm 12 hours ahead of him. I'm 3 hours behind him. I can't expect him to answer instantly. There's times that I do answer instantly, and folks are like, why are you not sleeping? But it's like, I'd rather deal with this problem now than bring it into my tomorrow. So that's honestly what's helped me be successful here for the last 6.5 years. And as we add offices, we used to have way more. We had about like 12 or 15 offices prior to the pandemic, and it was the same process. I had two offices in San Francisco, two in LA, Charlotte, Boston, Chicago. So I'm going all across the time zones, but I found common issues in each and how to address them at the same time. So it's just like, oh, we had this problem in Boston. This is what you do. And that'll buy me enough time that if something else happens, I can escalate it and follow up with it in a comfortable time for me.
And again, it goes back to the trust, right? And you
Hmm.
be a liaison from, okay, this is the company strategy. Like at the end of the day, the office and all the things that you're doing as leaders, workplace leaders, is it is to facilitate the business, right? The business goals. But a huge part of what you're dealing with is like the two most important assets of the company. It's the people and the places. Like that, they have to be to coexist, right? And that's a
Exactly.
thing. So the trust building is such a important piece, and you both reference a lot of in your answers the hospitality aspect, and I think this is part of the big transformation that this role has had in the past few years, I would say. So it's fascinating to hear how you do it both when you're scaling up or down or changing policies, right? Um, so I want to move to our second part of the webinar, which is the Q&A. There's so many questions here. So Shaq, Michelle, brace yourself. I'll start with the first one, who's been the highest vote, is that, and please feel free to answer. Have you seen a measurable lift in office utilization tied to meal programs? In which formats? Stipend, catered days, team lunches work best?
I could go first if you want, Michelle. All right,
Yeah.
cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so for me, what we actually created during the COVID era, as I call it, we wanted to figure out like, okay, the world is now safely opening back up. I was part of one of the spearheaders for creating the policy that allowed folks in the office. And I didn't bring it back where it was like everyone come back. It was just like, hey, we're doing a max of like 30 people in the office per day. And the reason why I did it, I did a whole bunch of math, like taking out square footage, where the desks were, social distancing, and landed on like, hey, 30 people in the space. So even if they went to the bathroom, kitchen, or whatever, they should have synced at a different time and had no contamination and no cross with each other. So when I was doing all of that, it was really like, okay, we need to start feeding people, but I need budget for this. I need to make sense of it. And I started doing like monthly breakfasts, monthly lunches. And at first, again, it's a cost. Finance is like, what are you doing? No one's in here. But I was like, I really believe that if we bring people in here, and we are saying, hey, thank you for coming in, thank you for the effort, and just showing like, hey, we'll cover your meal. It'll make a difference. Fast forward about 3 years later, we're still doing it. And even on grander levels, I send out a survey now where I have folks RSVP for like what they would like to try, and then we make it happen for them. So I really do see a boost in attendance. Certain Tuesdays, certain Thursdays, probably like about 30 or 40% more than normal, just because we've had like catered lunches come into the office, catered breakfast come into the office. Like it kind of drives people in. And then what I've noticed from there is it allows managers to now meet with their team and then in those moments create, hey, this is fun. We should do this more often. Yeah, I could come to the office. Yeah, this, that, and the third. And then now we're seeing recurring meetings happening without the lunch, without the breakfast, where people are still coming in. So it's definitely something that helps. It is an investment, to be very clear. It is an investment, but there are a bunch of different programs out there, whether it's like ShareBite or Fuda or anything like that, that can help you build out a plan for your office. And you can set the budget, and then you can skip certain months if you want, where you're like, hey, we're going to do this month. We're not going to do the next month. But I 100% can advocate for the fact you will see an increase in attendance.
Food brings people in, but be really intentional. The only like advice I would give, and it sounds like Shaq, you follow this, is use meals for gathering opportunities, not stipends, to let people eat independently. If people are just eating food on their own, that's a very different way of caring for them or supporting them from an employee program. You're just giving them a tool to feed themselves. Instead, use meals as gathering moments to continue to build community and continue to enforce positive behaviors of using your space in the right ways.
Agreed.
Thank you. I'll move to another question I think is really interesting is how do you balance optimizing real estate and optimizing for customer experience of employees? These metrics often move in opposite directions. So again, it's the push-pull of want to be in budget, we want to save, but we also want to have the best user experience, customer experience.
You want to bite into this one first, Shaq?
Um, yeah, I could play with this one. I could take this one. So
Yeah.
yeah, so when it comes to the real estate, I think the issue that a lot of folks may have, I know I've ran into it. If you have like a long-term lease, kind of like the one I have in my New York office, it's like about a 10-year lease. It's very hard to like flex with it a little bit versus if you're like in a co-working space where you're like, okay, we need more space, we can scale up. Oh, we need less space, we can scale it down. So what I get forced to do in the New York space is, like I said earlier, having to repurpose it a lot and learning, okay, how can I use this to sustain what people are looking for? How can I use this to incorporate, like, all right, this is what we're aiming to get from this without it being something I can't reverse. So I found a lot of different ways over the years to like take a conference room and I'm like, okay, for the video team, let's make it a product table room. So now like we're shooting stuff in here, but I'm not going to take out any of the lighting. I'm not going to take out any of the TVs just in case this format changes over time. I can put that table back in. I can reverse this back to a conference room, and it costs way less to do that than it would for me to strip the entire room and just black it out and make it just for a studio. So it's really just about looking at the real estate and saying, where are we overbought? Where are we underbought? Where do we have room to invest? And honestly, is there someone out there who can use this space, although we can? Because then there's an opportunity for revenue there where you're like, hey, maybe we throw this on peer space, or maybe we can sublet to somebody. Or if we have a parent company, do we have any subsidiaries that need something like this? Just before we destroy this or repurpose it permanently, it's like, can we grab some money out of this and then take that money to funnel and get the other thing that we want? So now we've helped the company, we make some money, people are happy. Everything should be okay at this point.
Yeah, I love that you said that. It makes me want to see if you're open to leaving Business Insider, because that is an incredibly resourceful way of approaching your work. You're not only looking at how do I make sure to use the resources we have, how do I make sure to add value and possibly bring more income in, which is so rare for us on these teams. We usually just spend the money, and to be able to bring some in and be a sublease landlord is not a
Yeah.
bad move. But the last thing I'll say there is this is just a brand new world. You have to solve these problems creatively. You have to be willing to look at them from a completely different lens of this is a restriction in resources. I don't have anything else I can't do. Instead, you have to say, okay, we have this space. How do I reevaluate how we're using it to make the most of it and be really honest? I had a leader who just joined. They're a VP. They came to me. They want their team of 20 to come together every day in our New York office. Well, our New York office is always at max capacity. There's not a space for 20 people to just be able to meet every day and work alongside each other. And we have permanent desks and we have flex desks, and there's requirements. You have to be in the office 4 days a week for a permanent desk, and they're booked and they're taken. And so there just really wasn't a clear solve to answer this problem the way it was stated, but there was a clear solve in saying, I will partner with you. I will work with you. Let's book a conference room for your team to work for 2 hours, 2 days a week. And if you're all together in that room and you're going to be there, you might be distributed back at your desk across flexible desks or permanent desks. But what's the goal that you're trying to solve for? And how do we meet that need creatively with the resources we have? It's a constant push and pull, and you won't ever make anybody happy. But the more honest and authentic you are about how to problem solve and how to drive towards the same solution, you'll be met with positive partnerships.
Yeah, and to that same point, I think like the most important part is just partnering with the manager because sometimes they struggle in those situations too, where they're like, all their team members are coming to them with these complaints or saying certain things, and we're like, okay, as the manager, what's the direction you're trying to go? As a team, what's the direction you're trying to go? Okay, what do we need to just sustain that? If we can get those two pools handled, we can float on everything else and figure it out in real time.
Always. What's the goal?
I
Yep.
love it. So two main things to take, I think, from your comments is one is what's the goal? Like what are you actually trying to solve?
Yeah.
And the second piece is the flexibility and creativity that you both talked about. Like the flexibility, it's such a different world, and I think it's fantastic. One last question. How do you assess workplace impact based on direct employees' input? Is there a channel where employees can privately share feedback about the office? Or in general, how do you get their input?
Yeah, I have a lot of I do quarterly surveys. And I do that for a lot of things. I do a snack survey. So it's just like, hey, do you like the kitchens? Do we have things you don't like? Is that coffee style time to change it? What are you thinking? And I get all of this input again because you want to make the employee feel like their voice matters. Actually, I'll state that different. Their voice does matter. You want to make sure that it's clearly being like sent to you. So that way they know, like, oh, I feel this out. I know Shaq read it. Something's gonna happen, or he'll message me directly to discuss it further. So the main thing that I've been looking at when it comes to this is like, I need surveys, I need employee engagement surveys, I need, hey, a pulse check. Like we have all of this out quarterly, and it honestly helps. Yes, it's a bit extra sometimes for some people to find like 10 minutes to like carve out their day and do it, but you'd be surprised the amount of engagement you get on that. So I have an office where about, let's say on a amazing day, about 180 people can be here. I send out this survey, and I have people who even come to the office once or twice a year, but they know that the change will be done. They'll even fill it out. So it gets to a bit layered where you're like, maybe you're going to get more responders than actually attendees in the office, but it's good because it gives you different angles that people are looking at and helps you know, like, all right, this survey is working, or maybe I need to shorten this survey. Maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe this is the same question three times. So surveys always help you for sure. It's data, data, data.
Michelle, anything from your end on how to gather data or inputs from the employees themselves?
Hot take, but I'm so sick of surveys. I'm sure a lot of you have survey fatigue too, especially after the last couple of years. Um, I agree wholeheartedly with the value of the data and what you can do with it and how you can make people feel heard. But I also just agree with our coordinators on the ground in each office, and then myself and everybody on my team know that we are the spokespeople. Similar to the way Shaq, you described your interactions with any time, right? That works for you to just respond to people and be engaged and know you're a person, not just a link or not just a figurehead
Mhm.
that can help them with these things. It's knowing that you just can talk directly to people, and that brings people out of their shell. And then you get a lot of feedback that you can action on instead of just complaining. Sometimes those surveys get filled with complaints, and that's, I think, a personal thing. So, hot take, survey less, I like to lead our engagement survey, and that's about it. Maybe after events or on sites. But I really just try to use the zeitgeist and the strong relationships and talking to people and understanding what people need to help meet those needs.
Thank you. I love the hot take. That's amazing. Weird time. It was a pleasure, Michelle, Shaq. You are a fantastic duo as well. And it flew by. It was so interesting. I learned a lot. I know our listeners as well. Thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your day, and also happy holidays. See you next year.
Yeah, happy holidays. Thank you for listening.
And
Yeah,
bye,
thank
everyone.
you.